Well, here we are in Levin Papantonio Studios, the very first episode of We Don't Color on the Dog. We're so excited about this. We're learning new equipment. We're trying to figure out all the ins and outs, but you're going to enjoy this show today, and we'll get better. Cena's working the board. We haven't figured out how to get another camera in here yet. We'll get all this put together in a way that I think will be very entertaining. It's going to give us a chance to do more casual interviews, but also a little bit more hard-hitting to really penetrate the issues and push a little bit harder. We're not going to do just politics. We'll cover entertainment. We'll cover a lot of different things going on, not only here but nationally. So this is what we're after, and we're going to get started right now. Our first interview was going to be with Mayor DC Reeves. We've got with us Pensacola Mayor DC Reeves. DC, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Well, last week the city council got sworn in, the new members. They elected the president, Jared Moore. It's a time to kind of reflect. This is also your 2-year anniversary at this time too. Did the 2 years go by fast or slow?
Yeah, it depends on the topic, Rick. I think some painstakingly slow, some really, really fast. But it's been good, and I think when we take a step back, especially out of the day-to-day of the things you need to do to just operate the city, but really, getting enough irons in the fire to really have some transformational change. I really don't regret anything in that respect, and certainly I'm very excited about the years to come, whether it be Hollis T. Williams, Baptist Hospital, American Magic, Maritime Park, some of the development being discussed downtown, the pay reform, some of these things that aren't just a one-year thing, strategic plan for the city. Well, that isn't just a one-year thing. I think those are all really exciting and things that are going to really move us forward, not just in 2025, but well beyond that.
Well, when you look at it and you talk about, and you mentioned it about getting a little bit less out of operations, that's bringing in Tim Kinsella in as your administrator. Yep. You've taken a very measured approach to bringing in your leadership team. Talk a little bit about that process, that decision process.
Yeah, and look, when I got here, we've got a lot of staff that works really hard, that's passionate about what they do, that certainly cares about the community. And, there's lots of different ways that new leadership comes into a situation. Some of us gravitate immediately to people. Let me get my people in regardless of good or bad or otherwise how things are going. And some people look at policy, and some look at procedure. It's not people, policy, procedure. There can be lots of things that are either going well or not going well. I'll use an example. Our fleet department, from an employee engagement standpoint, has had the single greatest turnaround. I don't even need to check in the record, in the history of these handful of years where we've been doing the employee engagement survey of engaged employees from last year or 2 years ago to last year. Largest jump we've seen. And what did we do? We actually have a lot of the same leadership in place, but we came in with Russell Sweat, who's now over facilities and fleet. So we had this overarching position that where Russell's done an amazing job about how to manage projects and manage people. So sometimes it's not just let's jump in and replace someone. Sometimes it's let's make sure everything's working well or evaluate why it's not working well. And that's going to be different in a dozen and a half city departments. Right. Sometimes it's a change in leadership's needed to shake things up, and sometimes we've got plenty of examples where things have gone really well with just a matter of how we operate things, how we manage things, and how we change expectations within that department. So I'm sure and listen, I think with Tim, it's been wonderful to have here. Again, brings lots of management experience. That I didn't have that many years. So he's been a huge help to us. I think he's been a huge help to our staff. And but we're having the same really kind of deja vu, kind of having the same conversations again about, here's a guy that's operated at a high level for a long time and operates a certain way. Are these departments under the right division, or, should we streamline this process? Should we not? That aren't necessarily people related, but how do we do a better job of running the city? So that's what I'm excited about. And so we'll probably be looking at some of that here in the coming months as well.
Well, I was thinking about, I tried to work with COA for 3 years, and I realized I'm not a corporate guy. I think I lost that gene passed away a long time ago. So you look at, you were your own business. You had your own business. You started it from scratch, got your investors, built a brand. How does that different, that entrepreneur ability, business owner ability, move into a municipal environment? What are the difference? To me, I think I would get frustrated and things couldn't move quick enough.
Yeah, that's a definite. And the challenge is to move them along a little quicker and accept some of the things that aren't as nimble anymore as they were when you were running your own business with your own money and everything else. But I think deeper than that, it's a perfect example. I'm part of Leadership Florida in this class, and we just had our first meeting a couple months ago, and they did, I don't remember which test, they did the personality test that kind of says, are you the super structured accountants and attorneys and bankers, or are you the, hey, ideas, vision, go get them. And the scale was like 40 was the lowest in our class, and like 141 was the highest, and I'm like 130, and all the business owners and entrepreneurs were all over there with me, and all the accountants and the bankers and the lawyers. And the point was, you need everybody, and we went around the room and said, hey, people on this extreme, what do you like about the folks over here? Well, they take initiative, and they come up with ideas, and they think outside the box and all of that. And then we talked about, well, man, we need that structure. We need someone to come back behind us and say, hey, remember that thing, that 17th most important thing that you said you do? Let's make sure we do it, And so I think it's more, it's less about that things are drastically different. Of course they are when you go from city government versus private. But I think the challenge and the opportunity is understanding your own skill set and being self-aware about what you're good at and what your weaknesses are. And then you build your team accordingly. And I think Tim's a prime example of that. I mean, could you come up, military background, running a military base? You have structure and organization and efficiency in how things are run. That's a perfect complement when you look at, whatever behavior test that I take, where you come from that entrepreneurial world of let's set a vision, let's have big ideas, and priorities 1, 2, and 3, I will lose out of my cold dead fingers, right? But I need that support structure for 10, 11, 12, and that's just knowing what I'm good at and knowing what I need help in. And so I would say that's probably been the biggest adjustment, more than it's really been one thing that's drastically different.
Now you're coming up on your State of the City address. But before we do that, though, you're also doing an open house at the airport. Let's talk a little about that new terminal, because this is something we needed 3 years ago now. I mean, we're already so far behind, not due to anybody's fault, due to demand.
Yeah, exactly. I just got an email. The Thanksgiving weekend was every lot, including the new lot, was 100% full, and including the overflow lot over by the fire department off Langley, 100% full at one point. And you're right. We have an airport built for 1.5 million people that's now taken over 3 million.
Right.
And that's the nature of where we are. So the next best thing we could do is get going. And we're on a good timeline right now. And I was able to get briefed last week on with the designer, and so the public's going to be able to see some general concepts, some ideas, some deviations about what the new terminal will look like. I think they'll be excited for what they see, whether that be a larger area for TSA and potentially more lanes for TSA. As well as just kind of the open airiness of what a new terminal looks like and what the expectations are of how people congregate, where they get their food and drink, where they, there's all of those things that you see in some of these bigger cities. It'll be only 5 new gates, but you're going to start to see, we're going to have kind of that new world, that new modern terminal and the amenities that come with that. are going to be some of the things you'll get to see. This is really conceptual at this point. We're not at 60% design or 90%.
Right.
Obviously, you'll get more. It's really more of here's what's going to be in here. What do you like? What do you not like? And so I'm excited to see what the public thinks about it. But it's desperately, desperately needed, no doubt.
So what kind of analysis has been done as to why we're seeing such rapid growth? I mean, we saw it starting in the Hayward administration. Then we had the pandemic and then it just like it shot up. What's the analysis y'all are getting on that?
Well, I will say, when we talk to our partners at FDOT, who of course do a lot of investing
Right.
at the state level into our airports, we're not seeing it at every airport, but we're not the only outlier either. There's lots of growth, especially in the Florida airports, that we're starting to see. It's a good question. It's a good question in terms of societally, why are we seeing more air travel? I don't know. It's a good question, but we are shattering through, as I say,
Right.
At the press conferences, take any sample size you want against last year, and it's at least somewhere between 12 and 15%
Right.
higher than the all-time record the year before. I mean, that's
Right.
just where we are. Not 1%, not 5%. We're talking 10, 12, 15%. And remember, when you see those jumps year over year, it's over an even higher bar. So,
Right.
so when you still see double digits, it's even more impressive than the double digits from the previous year. So, the great news is in every metric you look at Pensacola International, whether it's the obvious, how many people are flying through there, but you look at, we get reports on the number of seats that every carrier is bringing. And we see consistency, whether it's Southwest, American, Delta. We see consistency in, hey, we're bringing 30% more seats, this January or whatever compared to last
Right.
January. So that could just be an additional flight to Dallas or Nashville or Houston, or it could be a new service. We are grateful to hear recently that it sounds like Delta's planning a kind of a pilot in April to Boston nonstop. And that's just for a couple weekends. I think it's Easter weekend and the one after. I'm sure it's just kind of a test of the market. But this was an airline that said, hey, you're a regional airport. You'll never fly over Atlanta. And not only have they done that with LaGuardia service,
Right.
nonstop to New York City, which is so important for all of us, but that's has been very successful. So, when you start to see more and more markets tested, that is a absolutely great thing. So any way you want to slice it, whether it's service, whether it's volume, we are, bursting at the seams.
But you pointed it out at the recent press conference that cargo is up too, that it's not just passengers. So we're seeing commerce go through there that's not just tourism or visitors.
Yeah, and you'll see, probably when you go to the airport, you see the UPS. We get a lot of activity from UPS here. I don't know where their next one is, west or east, but I don't know. A lot of people are getting real busy on Amazon, I guess, Rick. I don't know. But it's over last year, 190 something percent.
Right.
Also, there's some long-term opportunity. I mean, having customs on the private side, I know it's something you don't really read about or hear about, but previous to a couple of years ago, if a private flight landed from the Caribbean or Mexico or something like that, you would have to call someone in from Mobile to come run you through customs. I mean,
Right.
You had to coordinate. Now we have customs on site. And so that doesn't affect a lot of people, but it's just another symbol of whether you're flying private, whether you're flying commercial, whether you're flying cargo,
Right.
activity is up and infrastructure is up to meet that demand.
So you've got let's go back to the state of the city address. I'm sorry, I went off on that.
No, that's all right.
But so what are some of the highlights there? What's the message you want to leave the citizens coming out of that meeting?
Yeah, I think we're going to go through a lot of things happening. What I hope is really twofold. Number one is we have set these pins up to knock them down, and after 2 years, we continue to hone our focus. We're going to always look for opportunity. We're going to look for grant funds. We're going to look for, that doesn't mean we put blinders on and we're only going to focus on these things. But I think after two years, when I take very seriously that I do what I say I'm going to do, that we can kind of memorialize that in saying all those generational projects that we talked about. I didn't mention Fricker Center, that we're going to be spending millions and millions of dollars on park revitalization, community center revitalization and maintenance. We'll talk a lot about that as well. But these generational projects that will have an impact well beyond me being in this office, and what those are and where that direction forward is. So I want, after 2 years, I want us to hone our focus, and dovetail with that is hone our focus around the strategic plan. So, and that'll be really the last thing I talk about. And I'm not going to rehash every detail of the strategic plan, but you can see these in my head. I see these two things converging. Us, bringing to the forefront, to the top, these major projects, and the citizens have told us what they want. Lots of those merge and lots of those intersect. Housing, of course, but for example, one of the big objectives of the strategic plan is let's build some walkable community type neighborhoods in places other than downtown. That was one of the big requests of our citizens. Well, we have a $5 million grant for Brownsville right now for commercial revitalization that we earned already. So we haven't really started on that, but that's a reinforcing to hear that's a good direction to go. And so there'll be some other opportunities, coming forward in the distant future. So we aren't going to put blinders on, but I do want to set the table for our citizens to say, here are the major things that we are working on, and this is what you should expect for me to implement and execute.
Yeah, Mayor, before you go, my daughter showed me there's a YouTube video on Pensacola history about the tunnels on Palafox Street.
Yes.
Do you think we could use that for parking?
Look, I'm an opportunistic guy, Rick. If we can find, I don't know how to get down there, but we can make that free. And now you don't even have to walk a block. You just it'd be one flight of stairs, I guess. I don't know. It'd be parking on Palafox. It just might be underneath.
Okay.
I mean, if you'll give me the keys or a map, just let me know, and I'm happy to look into it.
All right, we'll do it. Mayor, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to do this often. We'll get you in the studio too, but great interview. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, anytime.
I'm very excited to have the professor, Martha Saunders. She is actually the president of UWF. Martha and I have been friends, gosh, going back to when we first moved here in 1982. And it's been so fun to watch your career, Martha, and just to see how UWF has blossomed with you at the leadership.
Thank you. Well, it's a fun job.
It is.
Especially when things are going well.
Yeah, well, and you made the power list this year.
I'm very honored.
You're the top. You were the cover girl this time, so cover woman. So
thank you.
Thank you. We're coming towards the end of the fall semester. What were some of the highlights that you see of this past semester?
Well, it was a big semester. Kind of getting ready to talk with you today. I thought, well, I don't know if I pack it all in. Record enrollment, which is something I always lead with, and we welcomed yet another National Merit Scholar. That's a big deal. Before I became president, we had not had any. And now I think we have 14.
Wow.
And those students can go anywhere in the country on a full ride. And when they're choosing to come here, that tells me we're doing a lot right. For the third year in a row, we were top 10 public university in U.S. News and World Report. My favorite is we were named a great college to work for.
Right.
I like to think that matters a lot. We are a labor intensive industry, and you got to get the labor right. If you're
right.
And they need to be happy if they're going to do good work. Oh golly, lots of accolades for our work with veterans. Top 5 in the country as a top military friendly school, best for vets, a Florida Collegiate Purple Star campus. I think we were the first in Florida to get that designation this year. And facilities. A lot of construction fences up all year. We opened the Gateway. That was a project that was near and dear to the students. Come to campus, you'll see a beautiful gateway lit up at night in UWF blue and green. and a great place for students to have their graduation pictures taken.
Those selfies are so important. We
This
know
is
that.
phase one. Phase two will be coming up and make a much better access to our Welcome Center. Things that, in my mind, tell us you have arrived when you've come to UWF. We cut the ribbon on the Sandy Sansing Sports Medicine Center. And I was telling my husband about that event. I said, I know it was a ribbon cutting, but it was like the best ribbon cutting ever, partly because of all the partnerships involved. It's us, it's Florida State's medical school, it's Andrews, it's Baptist, layer
Right.
upon layer of partnerships that are good for our student athletes and training athletic trainers to to serve in a lot of variety, a lot of capacities. Oh golly, we are have gotten a good bit of work of support for our research. Triumph Gulf Coast gave us $3.3 million for water and vessel engineering research, and we'll be
Right.
doing that at the port. A good many faculty are getting recognition for work for early identification of breast cancer, early identification of Alzheimer's. And so I like to say we're turning a college town into a knowledge town. That's my new. How
That's
about that?
let's try that one for a while. That was good. You started a major capital campaign, of course, with the you you front loaded your capital campaign with some huge announcements. Howard Reddy has done a fantastic job. I know he's always nervous, but that's because he's got these big goals. How's the capital campaign going now?
It is going very well. Our plan is the campaign will go through June of 26. The goal is $90 million, and Howard updated today, we're at 76 million.
Wow. Wow.
So if things continue to go well, we'll probably just raise the goal. We're not going to stop.
Howard will never sleep. You're never going to let Howard sleep.
No, bless his heart. But it's going to mean so much. If we meet our goals, all kinds of good things will happen. Of course, we'll have a beautiful new stadium. We will have every student, if we meet our goal, every student at the University of West Florida will have access to a scholarship.
Wow.
Now, that's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are, they're starting to see things happen. Sometimes people are reluctant to spend money on just a bright idea.
Right.
But when they start seeing that bright idea turn into reality, we're getting a lot of good support. I'm especially happy with our support from our alums.
Mm-hmm.
We had our first female chemistry graduate.
Wow.
Came and started a center in the Department of Chemistry to an endowment for students there. And so, and Sandy Sansing himself he got our first athletic scholarship. He was here on a golf scholarship.
Right. I remember that. That's right.
And so you get, when your alums are coming back and they're saying, this place meant a lot to me. I've had some good fortune. I want to give back. And I think those are the most rewarding gifts, whatever the size.
Well, you see people they're wearing their school colors. You see that more and more. The day of giving was huge. I mean, it always is, and it's just a different feel. Like I like to say, yes, I went to Ole Miss, but UWF is my college. This is our college.
We're the hometown school.
Definitely. Now, 4 years ago, we discovered went through the collection of T.T. Wentworth and found his connections to the Klan. Where are we with that collection? And I know we renamed the museum, but what's going on with that?
The entire collection has been cataloged.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to see it, you just Google UWF T.T. Wentworth papers. And you can see them all.
Wow.
Now, Jamin Wells, our rock star history professor, is working on a book kind of around the entire collection and what was happening at the time and who was doing what. And that promises to be a really, really important piece of research.
It was fascinating to go through the papers because there were ledgers of the dues, there were letters, there was, and then, I was able to also go back and look at how T.T. Wentworth shaped our view of history. I mean, he had a regular show on WCOA. He was doing, just like Judy Bentz with archaeology, he was doing that with history for decades. So it's a story that was that the university didn't run away from, which I appreciate.
Well, and no, we didn't, and we shouldn't. I mean, we're in the knowledge industry. That's what we do. And it has to be any historical document just has to be approached with all integrity. We try not to tell people what to think, but we do want them to have accurate information, and in context.
Right.
Because that is what scholars do. They put it in context rather than a lot of some of the showy stuff we we see today that may or may not be accurate.
Right. Well, and this is different in that this is a collection. This is a museum that y'all took over. The university took over. It's different in a lot of different ways because it wasn't a UWF back when T.T. Wentworth was alive, or for most of his life. I saw the University of Mississippi go through looking at context and dealing with its history, which was much longer and much more controversial parts to it. So it's a challenge for the university, and I agree with you. UWF has to be the place where this discussion happens.
That's right. Well, and we have to, and you have to frame it. It's easy to pick any piece out of history and think you understand it. And so that what our historians do so well is they say, all right, let's frame this within a context that we can understand, and that puts it in any event into perspective of the times.
Right.
And it does make a difference in how we we don't see history in sound bites. We should.
Right. I agree. It's not all, it's all not easily goes on TikTok. Not at all.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, we're both Mississippi natives. You're in Hattiesburg, I'm in Greenville. Talk about Huck Dunagin. It's a great story. Tell us it.
Oh my goodness. My Uncle Huck. His name was Raymond Dunagin. He was my dad's older brother, and he and my dad were union leaders at what they called Hercules Powder Plant in Hattiesburg. That's where they worked. And Huck was the president of the union, and my dad was the vice president. And I grew up during the civil rights movement, and during especially the movement to register voters, Black voters, which is what brought in the Freedom Riders.
Right. Early 60s, mid 60s, Mississippi.
Freedom Riders were coming, college students from all over the country. You remember the horrible murders in Philadelphia, Mississippi, of 3 students who had come to help people register to vote. And the people who wanted to resist that voter registration, one of the tools they used was to threaten the jobs of Black people who wanted to register to vote.
Right.
Of course, you threaten someone's job and their livelihood and their food. That's a scary thing. And so some people came to my Uncle Huck because he was the head of the union of a very large group of employees. And they said, you don't you don't need to, your people don't need to be registering to vote. And Huck, of course, Huck was not scared of the devil himself. Anyone who knows him could tell stories all along, but he was not particularly political, but he stood very firm on that. And we had a lot of family conversations between him and my dad. But he said, if a man works a day for a day's pay, he should get to vote. And so he wouldn't comply with that tool. Got all kind of threats, which didn't bother him a bit. He had cross burned in his yard, didn't bother him a bit. So, and his son, who you may know, was a reporter for the Clarion Ledger in Jackson, and he had a cross burned in his yard for even reporting on the civil rights movement. Well, that made Huck mad. So he went up there with his shotgun and sat there all night long, just daring anybody to bother his son again. So, but I think what mattered was he did what was right.
Right.
And he made his own decision about that. He just said, people work hard for their day pay, they should get the rights of citizenship.
And that was those kind of steps that were so critical in the civil rights movement. In Greenville, it was Harding Carter, the newspaper editor, who stood up against it. And it is a part of the story. But I'd love to hear the story. You've shared the book, which is just, I really enjoyed reading, because a lot of those names were names, because Mississippi is a club. It's not really a state. You kind of know everybody some way. So, gosh, thank you for doing it. Martha, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
This is a treat. Thank you very much. Although now I will remember to dress better.
Well, no, you're fine. You're fine. We'll send you a copy of this, but thank you so much for coming on.
That sounds great.
All right. Take care.
Have a
Bye.
good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Oh, gosh, we got with the sheriff, Chip Simmons, Escambia County Sheriff. Chip, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, Rick. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Survived Thanksgiving. Still, everything's a little bit tight today, but I'll get there.
That's why I built it up to the desk.
Yeah, really. That's why I've got the camera, this laptop in front of me. Chip, over the weekend, President-elect Trump nominated Hillsborough Sheriff, Chad Chronister, for the DEA head. What do you know about Chad?
I know Chad pretty well. When we get together on a Sheriff's Association meetings, we talk a lot about what's going on in different counties, what's going on, what trends we see. And also, about 4 years ago, the governor came over to the sheriff's office, and Chad was one of the sheriffs that came over here, and we had some good discussions about border security and about drugs. So I know him pretty well. I think he's going to do a fantastic job. He's doing a good job at Hillsborough County. He has a wealth of knowledge on local law enforcement, on local drug trends, and kind of what the flow of drugs does to a local community.
Yeah, and that to me was the interesting thing about it, Sheriff, in that bringing a sheriff up to that level brings a different set of skills and experiences than someone being a DEA at a bureaucracy. What do you think, if you were to be sheriff, if you were going to be the DEA, what do you think you could bring to this type of position, or any sheriff could bring to it?
Well, I think that it's like anything else. You have to learn, what the capabilities are at that higher level, that national level. You also have an international aspect of it. So if I was in that position, I would immediately, again, learn what the capabilities are existing and what we need to do to make sure we can support the local sheriffs. We can support the states with regards to stopping this influx of fentanyl, which, again, as we know, is just killing people on a daily basis here in Escambia County. It certainly is happening throughout the state and the country. So I think that there's going to be a learning curve, but I think that there is the benefit is that they know what happens, and I'm certain that they're like us. They're a part of many DEA task forces. So they're pretty familiar with the investigations, not just that stay in one county, those that branch off and go to California, go to Texas, and in some cases go international. So I think that it's not always rocket science. What you can do is learn what they are and compare those to your basis of knowledge and go from there.
Now let's drill down to Escambia County, because I know you have strengthened your drug task force. You have you and I have talked extensively about some of the big busts that y'all have. How is Escambia County doing in this war on drugs?
Well, I mean, I think we're doing pretty good. I think we have to have a focus. We have to have a priority, and we have prioritized fentanyl as we have discussed many times over the last couple of months. We have done more search warrants than we've ever done in that period of time. We've done more, higher drug seizures with regards to fentanyl and methamphetamines than we've done in probably in the history of the sheriff's office, because fentanyl is still a relatively new drug. But we've partnered with the DEA. We've partnered with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. We understand that we have to take a multi-pronged approach to the drug situation that we have here in Escambia County. We can hit them at the ground level or at the search warrant level, but we can also partner and find out who the distributors are, who are the mid-level distributors, who are the upper-level distributors. And there's many times that we get cases that, as I mentioned earlier, that exceed the jurisdiction of Escambia County. So we work with the DEA, and our guys have flown many times out to California and to different locations to work with DEA to make sure that not only can we handle the drug investigations here local, not only can we hit the mid-level ones that we have hit here local, but also let's try to work with them and help the DEA on stopping the drugs from a national or international level.
Now, Sheriff Chronister is going up to the federal level. Your name was one of the ones that came up as a possibility of also going to the federal level. We know that Matt Gates' seat is becoming open, and there's going to be a special election very soon. Your name was one of the names that was mentioned for sheriff, and you and I had a very frank conversation. I felt like you would bring a lot to the table, but I was worried to lose you as sheriff. How did you make it? It's hard to believe I would say that. No.
I wrote it down.
You wrote it. Yeah, it was recorded. But tell us how that decision process worked for you.
Well, I mean, I'm aware of the situation. I'm aware of the vacancies that come around whenever someone like Matt Gates would leave. And I started getting phone calls with people asking if I was interested. And I'm assuming that they just do that because they call all the elected officials and see if there's trying to figure out who might run for this particular seat, because it's a big seat. It's a national representation of the Northwest Florida area. So I after about 5 or 10 calls and some honestly some national calls from some search type companies, I decided that let me first of all put this thing to rest, or let's decide whether we're interested in it or not. I take very serious the position that I have. I think the bottom line is I don't know that there's a better job than the sheriff of Escambia County, where I can make the biggest difference on a daily basis. I live here, I raised kids here, I want to stay here, and I want to do what's best for Escambia County. Secondly, I asked people to vote for me. This past year, we had signs that were going out. We were having meet and greets. We were prepared to run a campaign. And when no one ran against me, when I was unopposed, I felt like that was a sign from the community that said, hey, we're comfortable with what we have. We trust you, and we're putting our trust in you as a sheriff. Now, I'm not judging anyone else for jumping in. I'm simply telling you what Chip Simmons feels like. I haven't even started my second term yet, so I just did not feel it appropriate for me to jump ship because I take my job. I take the fact that I asked for votes and I got reelected. I take that very serious, and we have a job here to do, and I'm just enjoying it. And I don't know that there's a better job than sheriff of Escambia County, at least not now.
Well, so what's undone, Chip? What do you want? Not taking that step, the subtle message is there's things still to be done. So what's up for you?
Well, I mean, I'm always one that looks for challenges and tries to figure out ways where we can do, we can make good great. And I think that we have certainly made our sheriff's office better. We are more capable than we've ever been, whether it's manpower or technology. And that's where we're really going to do some fantastic things. We have the Memorial Plaza we talked about on your earlier on.
Right.
And that Memorial Plaza is going to come to fruition hopefully by May. So I want to get that, make sure that that's done right. We have a number of other initiatives, smaller, but I think that this merging technology with manpower and making full use of the cameras that we have and putting more cameras in our community to make us where we are, our capabilities are endless. I think that that's very important. And I really want to see where that goes. We're not the first agency to have cameras, but I want to make sure that we do it better than everyone else. So let's from our level, from our 330,000 population of Escambia County, let's see how good we can make that. Let's see what our partnerships can look like, whether it's the Real-Time Crime Center or whether it's the engagement that we have started and we continue at least through the next 4 years. I look forward to working with the Board of County Commissioners to increase our manpower. We have people moving into Escambia County on a daily basis. I want to make sure we stay ahead of the game because I believe, obviously, and I'm biased, I believe that public safety is the number one priority, should be the number one priority. And again, I take that very serious. So I'm excited about what the future holds. I'm excited to see just how much better we can become.
You mentioned Memorial Plaza, and we've talked about it some. You were kind enough to give us the renderings of it. What's the budget for it? And if someone wanted to give to it, how can they make a donation?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The budget is around $500,000. It's going to be we're going to do it right. We're not going to do a small Memorial Plaza. We're going to make sure that it does have the two sides we spoke of earlier. If someone wants to donate, it is being funded through the Escambia County Sheriff Foundation. So you can go to their web page and all the information is on there. The cost of the bricks, the cost of the sponsorship is on there. And obviously we welcome any contribution to it. I mean, how else can you show your appreciation for the sacrifice that the Escambia County Sheriff's Office and their deputies has done for the last 200 plus years in keeping our community safe. And this is something that's going to be lasting. It's going to be a focal point for the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. No one's going to be able to walk inside or leave the Sheriff's Office without noticing it and taking a look at the wall and paying their respects and acknowledging the sacrifice for our protection.
Yeah, I think Cena brought that up when we talked about it last time. Just it adds a different type of entrance, a more solemn entrance. I mean, it's when people go to the sheriff's office, it's usually not a great experience to begin with. But for some, it's not.
Oftentimes, it's not.
Oftentimes, it's not. But it also makes people helps people understand the sacrifices that the day in and day out deputies make, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. When Cindy was around, we did talk about that. And, I reminded us all really that this is not the first memorial that we have now. This is at least the third iteration of the memorial. And we want to make sure that this is done right. We want to make sure that we take every square inch that potentially can be used in front of the building, again, because they deserve that. And I think that that's the important part. I talked briefly a second ago about the bricks and the sponsorships. Right. The bricks will only be on the plaza side, not on the memorial side. You don't get to purchase bricks on the memorial side. Those are simply for to show respect to those who paid that ultimate sacrifice. So we're very excited about that. But again, that's just one of the projects that we're looking at, one of the initiatives we're looking at. And then you asked, so I'm going to tell you there. What I'm excited about is every day, let's find out a way we could do just a little bit more, be just a little bit better, whether it is the appearance of our cruiser cars, whether it's a radio system, whether it's our firearms, whether it's the shoot house that we have built, our training building. We're working on getting a larger training room so we can host area law enforcement agencies at our agency, at our department. And I think that that's very important. We have our own police academy. So we're going to continue to enhance that And to do so, we have to make sure that we're, even better trained than we are today.
Great. Chip, thank you so much for coming on today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll do it again. Well, thank you for watching.
And be sure and click on the link below to like and subscribe, and click the little bell so you get notified when we drop a new episode. We'll see you next week.
And remember, we don't color on the dog.